Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest questions in Hindu mythology. Where did Lord Shiva come from? I mean, we always hear he's timeless, right? No beginning, no end. But is that really the full picture? So let's just ask it straight up. Is Lord Shiva eternal, or was he actually born? This is a question that's fascinated people for centuries. And let me tell you, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. And right here, this is the central paradox. On one hand, you have the common belief. Shiva is Swayambhu, basically self-created, eternal. But then you open up the ancient scriptures, the Puranas, and whoa, you find all these different, really vivid stories about his birth. And they don't always agree with each other. So you gotta ask, right? How can a god who's supposed to be timeless have a birthday? It sounds like a total contradiction, but stick with me because figuring this out is the key to really getting the complex, incredible nature of Lord Shiva. All right, so where do we even start to unravel this thing? Well, like any good detective story, we look at the evidence. And our first two major clues come from two different texts, the Vishnu Purana and the Shiva Purana. And get this, they tell completely opposite stories about who's at the top. Okay, first up, the Vishnu Purana. This one lays out a pretty clear family tree. You've got Lord Vishnu as the ultimate source. From his navel, a lotus pops up, and boom, there's Brahma, the creator. Then, from the super intense energy on Brahma's forehead, Lord Shiva appears. See, it's a nice, neat, top-down hierarchy. But then, you pick up the Shiva Purana, and it just flips that whole idea completely on its head. In this version, Shiva is the one at the very beginning. It says he was just rubbing his knee, and from that simple act, Lord Vishnu himself was born. So, wait a minute, who came first? So how can both of these stories be true? They're total opposites. Well, there's a legendary story that tries to settle this debate once and for all, not with arguments, but with an incredible cosmic test to see who's really the greatest. So here's the scene. Brahma and Vishnu are arguing about who's more powerful. Suddenly, this massive, fiery pillar of light appears between them. It's infinite. A voice challenges them. Whoever finds the end of this pillar is the greatest. So Brahma turns into a swan and flies up. Vishnu becomes a boar and digs down. They travel for thousands of years and find nothing, no end. When they finally give up and come back, who emerges from the pillar? Lord Shiva. The message is crystal clear. He is immeasurable, without a beginning or an end. He is the pillar. But hold on, the story isn't over. There's a twist. Vishnu comes back and humbly admits, I couldn't find the end. Brahma, on the other hand, he lies. He totally claims he reached the top. This lie makes Shiva furious, and he lays down a curse. Brahma will not be worshipped on earth. And, that might be a big reason why you see so few temples dedicated to Brahma today. Okay, so you'd think that settles it, right? Shiva is the infinite, supreme being. Case closed. But nope. Just when you think you've got it figured out, another story pops up, also from the Vishnu Purana, that shows Shiva in a completely different way. Not as a pillar of fire, but as a tiny, crying baby. It's a really fascinating account. So after that whole pillar incident, Brahma is feeling pretty sorry, and he asks Shiva for a special favor, a boon. Please be born as my son. Years go by, and Brahma is getting started with creation when he remembers this promise. He meditates, and poof! A baby appears in his lap, just wailing its eyes out. Brahma asks, why are you crying? And the baby says it's because he doesn't have a name. So Brahma names him Rudra, which literally means the one who cries. But here's the thing, one name wasn't enough. The baby just kept on crying, so Brahma's scrambling, right? He gives him another one name, Sarva, still crying, Bhava, still crying, Ugra, Mahadeva. He keeps going until he's given him 108 different names. And finally, the baby stops crying. And each of those names, by the way, represents a whole different aspect of Shiva's cosmic power. Okay, let's just pause and take stock here. We have stories where Shiva is born from Brahma, stories where Vishnu is born from Shiva. We have an infinite pillar of light, and now a crying baby. How on earth do all these pieces fit together? Well, to find an answer that kind of unifies everything, we need to look at another major text, the Srimad Devi Bhagwat Purana. This one really helps put it all into perspective. And this is probably the most important idea to grasp. We have to understand that there are different forms or aspects of Shiva. First, you have Sarashiv. Think of this as the formless, ultimate divine reality, the great soul. It's not a person, it's a principle. Then you have Shankar or Mahesh. This is the deity we usually picture, right? The one meditating on Mount Kailash, married to Parvati. The key thing is, they're not exactly the same thing. And this cosmic creation myth really reframes the whole picture. It says that in the very beginning, before anything, there was only Sadashiv, that timeless, formless soul, and the goddess Durga as pure energy. From their combined being, they decided to create the universe. So they created Vishnu to handle the job of preserving everything. They created Brahma to take on the task of creation. And then they created Rudra, who is a form of Sadashiv himself, to manage destruction. And just like that, everything clicks into place. All that arguing about who's on top, it just vanishes. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva aren't rivals in some cosmic power struggle. You could almost think of them as different departments in the same company. Creation, preservation, destruction. 3 essential jobs, all coming from one single source, the ultimate cosmic parents, Sadashiv and Durga. But, after digging through all these ancient texts and complex ideas, maybe the best answer, the most profound and honestly the cleverest answer, comes from Shiva himself when someone finally just asked him. So a group of sages, they're determined to get to the bottom of this. They go right up to him and ask, "Lord, who is your father?" And Shiva just says, "My father is Brahma, the creator." Okay, that makes sense. It lines up with the Rudra story. So the sages are like, okay, but then who's your grandfather? And Shiva answers, "My grandfather is Lord Vishnu, the preserver." All right, that also tracks with the Vishnu Purana, where Brahma comes from Vishnu. Now the sages are really scratching their heads. They ask the final question. Okay, then who is your great-grandfather? And this is where Lord Shiva just smiles and calmly says, "My great-grandfather is Shiva." And with that one brilliant, mind-bending answer, they finally got it. Shiva isn't just one link in a chain of ancestors. He is the chain. He's the whole circle. He is the end, and he is the beginning. And that's really what we're left with, isn't it? A final thought to chew on. All these different births of Shiva, they're not contradictions at all. They're just different windows looking out onto the same infinite truth. And it makes you wonder, if a god can be both the beginning and the end, their own great-grandfather, then what does that say about our own ideas about time? Maybe our neat little line of past, present, and future is just one tiny way of seeing a universe that's always looping, always beginning, always ending, all at once.